Gonky, this next one is also you.
Yeah.
The Air Force is asking for help with training capacity.
This is kind of crazy. So they've basically solicited some proposals from contractors on both the UPT side and even some F-16 schoolhouse stuff. So as Mover could probably expand on, a lot of the non-US pilot training, so other countries that send their fighter pilots here to get trained, it all happens at NJEP. So the Air Force Training Command is not only tasked with training U.S. fighter pilots, but also foreign nations that come here. And with the delays of the T-7 and the engine troubles of the T-38, they're reaching a point where they can't handle it. So they've tried to float the idea of civilian companies, contractors, possibly using a T-38-ish kind of airplane in the pilot training regime. And then even beyond that, so after IFF, with contract trainer, instructor pilots, if you go F-16, even having like a civilian F-16 schoolhouse, which would be awesome for, guys like us. We want to go fly.
I think, so on a related note, how do you start an LLC?
Right.
Because I feel like
this goes back to our $15 million idea, Gonky.
I literally thought about this, like, all they want is a proposal. I can write a proposal on a piece of paper.
And the government will give you money. They don't care. They're like, oh, yeah, you got the contract. You don't actually have to be good on the contract. They don't care about that. They just hand money out for contracts.
Well, in all seriousness, having been a civilian instructor, and I think, Wombat, you could probably see this as well as a civilian instructor on the civilian side. I really think there is a lot of value in military IPs teaching military students. There has to be that military structure mentality, that warfighterness early in training.
Rank structure. Just the rank.
Well,
just the pure, this person outranks me and I have to listen to them.
Yeah, it instills the basic core warfighter ethos, I think, in a person. And I don't believe that happens when you are a contractor, because when you're a contractor, you're doing this for profit. And when you do it for profit, you want the customer to keep coming back. And to get the customer to keep coming back, you make them happy. Okay. Yeah. So a military instructor pilot does not care if his student is happy or not.
Happy. No.
Right.
In fact, a little bit upset if they are happy, frankly.
Right. A military instructor pilot, having been one, I'd purposely, put stress on the student because that's my job, man. I don't want this person to get out there and get killed. But as a civilian instructor pilot, I was like, man, if I can't get students to keep coming back, I ain't going to eat. Right. So I think it's a bad idea. Another bad idea by the Air Force.
What?
But that's my own opinion.
Just say the government in general. Let's just, because the Navy's right behind it on this. Let's not. This isn't an Air Force.
That's
thing.
True.
Like
you want to get away from mercenaries in your military, is my own personal opinion, because you just don't have the same control as you would with like military personnel. I don't know. Mover, am I crazy? What do you think?
I mean, no, you make a good point that I had not considered. I look at it and like, hey, I'll go do it. I thought the T-50 is a great option. The one that lost, even though it's already in production, because the problem we have here is that we can't get out of our own way. Every time, and I'm going to talk about this here in a little bit when we talk about the T-7, T-38, because there's an article that deep dives into kind of what's going on. But every time we get into the current contracting process, it falls apart, because the whole point of the T-7 was to say, hey, Saab's already got this thing. We're going to get Boeing involved, and then it's going to be ready. And then it wasn't. And then they had to militarize it. They had all these things they had to do. And so now they realize they can't in the timeline that they need. The T-38 is a 70 or 69-year-old airplane. And what do you do? Because we have not, instead of, it goes back like we've talked about many times on this channel, 20 years ago, instead of a T-38C, they should have said, what's next? When they got the T6, what's next? Because the T1's now timing out because it's got engine problems. Their engines are timing out and stuff like that. So you've got this perfect storm of we have mismanaged it for so long. And now we're like, oh God, what do we do? And so the question was, well, do we do VR? And I 100% oppose that. So if the answer is we hire Gonky Aviation LLC,
We could do better than that name, by the way.
Or put a DCS computer in Gonky's living room and train students, the answer is going to be put people in jets, even if it's civilian, because we're such a manpower issue right now that I don't think even if you opened all the floodgates, you could get enough qualified instructor pilots to go do this. Like, we're in that spot. And then you're probably going to have problems because you're going to have to find the applicants that are fighter qualified or fighter background that want to do it, that didn't want to do the airlines. And we're going to talk about airlines salaries here at the end of the show. But it's like, how do you, I've done the math. I mean, I've spent the weekend doing the math. How do you justify it without paying them so much that it becomes cost prohibitive? And that is the world we live in now. Military, you're right. You've got a captive audience. You've got that, hey, you're under a 10-year contract. You have to do this. But right now we're finding as soon as that 10-year point hits, they jump, they leave because they can go make more money and have a better quality of life, and they don't have to deal with all the stuff. But that's another topic.
They're not treated like garbage. That's the problem. Like,
well, here's the thing, dude. Okay, then leadership needs to hear you can't afford the military you want, so you're going to have to downsize. Because I mean, it's one thing to have a massive force of crap when you could have a smaller force that's good. You know what I'm saying?
100%. But you lost me at the leadership has to listen, because they're not, and they haven't listened for decades. This is why people, like, when you hear podcasts with people like Nasty and stuff, it resonates with so many people because it's such a different leadership style that guys like you and I look at a guy like Nasty and we're like, damn, how did he survive? Like, how did he survive? Because the mass of the leadership is garbage. They're absolute garbage. They care about themselves. They don't care about the people that they're supposed to be leading. A guy like Nasty does, right? So that's why he stands out so much in this world, because the things that he speaks of are so inherently different than what the average military member has even experienced, right? So the problem that you have here is you have so many of these top leaders that are so busy patting each other on the back about how much of a great job they did. Nobody looked around and realized that they've done a crap job. And now we're in a really bad situation. And, oh, by the way, you take some of the guys like Nasty and Trim and some of these leaders we've had, and you put them there, they'd fix it because they know how to fix it. It wouldn't be pretty. They wouldn't make people happy. It would upset some people. God forbid, we might even hurt somebody's feelings, but it would get freaking fixed. But the people that you have in leadership, well, the people you have in leadership right now won't do that because they're too worried about their own damn careers, right? And their own nest egg and all that. So this is the problem, and it pisses me off because it's going to kill pilots and it's going to make us less of a lethal fighting force. But nobody cares in leadership, in my opinion.